Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wavelength Wednesday. I am your host, Waveney, and every week I bring you tips and strategies geared towards connecting, inspiring, and influencing you to be the best in your job or career, and eventually and overall, actually, your life. And if you're new to my channel, or if you're new to my Facebook page or Instagram, welcome. I'm happy to have you. And if you're viewing, if you're a loyal fan, welcome back. Alrighty, let's jump into it. So January is about to end. Isn't that crazy? I mean, we just started the year, we just came out of Carnival, and it's really about to end. And for those of you who would have been following me and listening, January for me, I try to theme my months. And so January for me was really giving you information that would set you up for success for the rest of the year. And like I've mentioned before, I just didn't want to bring on time management tips. I just didn't really want to jump on into any type of tip like how to deal with a difficult manager, or anything of the sort. I didn't want to jump into all of that without setting a base and a foundation, because I believe if the foundation is good, if the base is good, if you set yourself correct and right for the at the beginning of the year, you're going to be fine. You're going to be just fine. And so just a recap. So we've spoken about mindset, because to elevate, to be successful, your mindset has to change. You have to move from one level to the other. Then we spoke about change, because it involves some change. Then I spoke about reinforcing your intentions, and I really focused on physical things that you can do, or actions, sorry, you can take to ensure that your intentions, or you may call them goals, are reinforced. And so I thought that I would wrap up January by speaking about habit, right? Because in all of this, you are creating a habit. And so I just want to read to you a quote, and it says, Aristotle actually said it. It says, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. And an act is sometimes a one-time thing, but a habit, or to achieve excellence, it's habitual. And so I thought that it would be really great to speak about forming habits, how habits are formed. Because with your mindset change, with your reinforcing of your intentions or goals, with you changing, you are developing habits. And so I just want to geek out a little bit. Bear with me tonight. That's a giveaway, right? Yeah, I'm filming this at night. I just want to geek out a little bit about habits and how habits are formed. And I'm a firm believer, if people know the why behind something, it makes it so much easier to get on board. It makes it so much easier to then, strategize, to then plan, So I just want to geek out on habits, how habits are formed. So habits are actions that we repeatedly take. So anything that you do repeatedly becomes a habit. For those of you who drive, if you go into your car, the first thing you do is put on your seatbelt. I don't know if many of you remember when the law enforcement started cracking down on seatbelts. For those of you who are viewing from overseas, we never in St. Kitts, on the Federation in St. Kitts and Nevis, it wasn't reinforced that we had to drive with a seatbelt. And so when law enforcement started cracking down on that, how many of you remember that, and how many of you remember it was so difficult because we were accustomed to jumping in our vehicles and then just driving off? And so that took a while for persons to to get on board with, because it was a different habit that you're forming. So a habit is something that you do repeatedly. Well, that is how they're formed. The geeky part of this program is about to happen. So there are some, our brain is really powerful, really, really powerful. And there are things in our brains that are called neurons. Actually, they're nerve cells. And their job is to communicate with other parts of the brain, and their job is to communicate with other neurons. Now, I didn't, I had to do a little bit of a research for this. I'm not a science guru, but still, this is interesting. So that's what their job is, to just communicate, right? And in the human brain, it has over 100 billion neurons. So that's so much neurons. And then when we learn something new, the brain builds a connection between the neurons. So every time we learn something new, there is a connection, there is a bridging, there is something that is going on. And that is sometimes why when we try to unlearn or we try to implement something new, it takes a while, because if you just do something once, it never sticks. The brain has to make a connection, right? So that is going on in your brain. The important thing to know about your brain, and once, I feel like knowledge is power, and once you know this, you can play around with it. Your brain learns by repetition, and you would know this because of school. I mean, when I was preparing this, I was like, yeah, because I remember school, I mean, the education system is such that you just need to memorize stuff. How many of you remember your times table, like having to learn it overnight and going back and having to repeat it? Your brain learns by repetition, which is why sometimes you work with people and they have a degree. I'm not kind of bashing anybody. They have a degree, and you kind of wonder, like, what happened here? Because common sense sometimes isn't really prevailing sometimes with them, and that's because the brain learns by repetition, and most of our education is by repetition. Most of the tests that we take is by repetition. So you get the point, right? I'm not bashing those who have a degree, mind you. Okay. So school is like that. Also, you would know this because if you are in the self-development, if you read a lot of self-development books like me, or just anything, they would tell you that you should give yourself more positive. The way you speak to yourself is important. Negative self-talk reinforces that, and positive, makes you more negative, makes you, reinforces that negative behavior, and positive self-talk reinforces that. And so that's a great example of your your brain learning by repetition. So whatever you tell yourself, after a while you will believe. And I heard a therapist say this: your brain doesn't know if it's right or wrong, right? It doesn't know if it's a joke or not. Whatever you tell your brain, it absorbs. So if you wanna change, for people who want to increase their self-esteem, for people who want to increase their confidence, you can tell yourself, you can give yourself a lot of positive self-praise and self-talk, and after a while you will become confident. After a while you will have that self-esteem, a high level of self-esteem. I don't know what's going on with me. I'm tripping over my words. That's because I'm probably excited. But your brain learns by repetition. And so if we know all of this, why am I saying all of this? I'm saying all of this because you are setting yourself up for success. You've made goals, you've made intentions, you have action steps that you need to take, and it's important to know that just doing them once won't work. It's important to create a habit. And so once you know how habits are formed, then you can really play around with it. So here's the interesting fact. So a lot of the times, how many of you have heard, oh, it takes 21 days to form a habit? But when I was doing my research, it actually doesn't really take 21 days. It's the habit is still being formed. So it takes, on an average, it takes 18 to 254 days. This is what I learned. That's about 8 months, right? On average, to form a habit. And it really depends on how strong the habit is, right? But what's interesting is it takes about 66 days for the behavior to become automatic. And so behaviors that are automatic is things like us brushing our teeth. We don't have to think to brush our teeth. We don't have to think to hold our the utensils, our knife, our fork. There's lots of things we don't have to think to do because it's automatic. I wear makeup. I don't have to think about it, that well. If I'm playing around with eyeshadow, yes, I have to think about it because I'm not accustomed to it. But putting on my lipstick, putting on my foundation and all of this jazz, I don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about bathing your skin. You have a routine. You start somewhere, you end somewhere, right? So you know that these things are automatic. So once you know that, you could play around with it. So 66 days from now, you want the behavior to become automatic as well, because if it's automatic, it's ingrained in your subconscious, and your subconscious is the one that really drives the bus. I don't know if I said it on here, but one evening, and this is how powerful your subconscious is. One evening, I decided that I had some points at Best Buy. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go grocery shopping there so I can get my points. Because, if you snooze, you lose, right? It just so happens I always shop at Ram's Supermarket. Like, that is my preferred supermarket of choice. I love going there. So I leave work and I go. And it was only until I am stepping in the door of Ram's when I realized I was at the wrong supermarket. My subconscious, it wasn't that I wasn't paying attention, but my subconscious was driving the bus, because my subconscious knows, okay, supermarket, Ram's, supermarket, it made that connection. So our subconscious drives the bus. And so we want that habit, we want that action, we want that behavior to become automatic. And so that is about 66 days. So I decided, okay, let me look at what's 66 days from now. 66 days from today will run you about, I think it's the 5th of April I saw. It's about the 5th of April. Let's call it the end of April. So if you are looking at this, if you have set intentions, if you have set actions, if you have set goals, what I would suggest is give yourself until, keep going, keep on moving, because you are going to get demotivated along the way. Some of us will. If it's a particular action, say for example, if you're trying to lose weight and you're having a difficult time, some of us are very impatient, we can't wait. You may not see any movement. Give yourself until the ending of April, but keep on going. And this brings me to the other final thing that I want to say on habit forming. So there is a chemical that our body makes, and forgive me, like I said, I'm geeking out on you tonight, because if you know this, you can play around with it, right? There's a feel-good chemical that's released in our bodies called dopamine. And dopamine is referred to as a pleasure drug. I shouldn't say drug, sorry. Pleasure chemical, right? So every time something pleasurable, we do something, we're rewarded, or something good happens, there's a release of that chemical in our body, right? And so what I would suggest to you is, I'm a big fan of celebrating wins, big or small. You've heard me say this. Celebrate yourself, big or small. Celebrate wins, big or small. It also increases your confidence. So how does this relate to your intentions or your goals? So the first thing I'd like to say is you want to feel good. So what I would do is, if your goal is to not eat carbs or cut out bread, for example, cut out bread, and you decide, okay, 3 days a week I'm not gonna eat bread, or I'm not gonna eat bread for the entire week. Well, on Saturday, reward yourself with something. If you like ice cream, reward yourself with ice cream. Or on Saturdays, reward yourself with bread then, right? And I can tell you this works because when I was transitioning to not eating meat, that is how I did it. I played around with myself. So I had 2 days I started with 1 day out of the week. You've heard me say this. 1 day it was meatless. And then I started conquering that, right? I started winning at that. Then I increased it to 2. Then I was like, no, I could do this. So let's push it and see if I could not eat meat for an entire week. And that's what I did. But on the weekends, I was, having my chicken soup, my fried chicken. I was doing all of that. And it happened until I was like, no, I really don't need it. And that is how you have to play around. A lot of people want to change, especially when it comes to diet or exercise. They want to go all in or quit, what do you call it, cold turkey, and your body is not designed that way because you formed a habit, right? You formed a habit. So you have to create, because every time you form a new habit, a new neural pathway is formed. They're talking to each other. Remember what I said earlier about bridging, neurons communicating. A new one is formed and old ones fall away. So it's like I said, I'm not gonna bore you with geeky scientific stuff. You can look at it yourself, but you can play around with yourself that way. The other thing that I used to do, I haven't done it in a while because I'm on this intermittent fasting thing. I had cut out breakfast and I started drinking green juice for breakfast, and I hated it at first, right? But I forced myself. I mean, it wasn't all that bad, but I had kale, I didn't use milk. I was using green tea at first. I had kale, I had banana, and I would push myself, and every day that would become my breakfast until I love green juice. I love it, love it, love it, right? So I was doing that for a while. So it is possible to play around with yourself. It is possible to form new habits. You just have to know how to do it. The other thing is just keep on going. Like I said, that 66-day mark, just keep on going. What I would suggest and what I am going to do as well is I'm going to get a calendar and I'm going to just start marking it down. And that helps as well until you reach the ending of April. So whatever habit you want to incorporate, we're still in January. Just keep going. Now you know that you have this information on habits, how they are formed, the patterns in your brain. You could play around with it. You could tell yourself, listen, I'm going to push myself until April. I won't stop until April, right? Because like I said, on the 66, it's 66 on an average for your behavior to become automatic. And you want that because your subconscious, then it's ingrained in you at this point. And so I've come to the end of this little scientific habit talk on habit. If you love this information, share the information with your friends, with your family, with whomever. Maybe somebody you know wants to cut out something or increase or do more of something. Share the video with them so they can at least play around and be successful with it. And as always, if you love what I'm saying, if you had the pleasure of viewing my other videos and you'd love to be coached by me, please send me an email at hellowaveney@thepeoplebrandskn.com, and I will be more than happy to, you know, coach you. I really love doing that. You know what, I just realized that almost my shirt and the backdrop almost look similar right now on camera. Right now on camera. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I will see you next week. Have a great